The human ship Vanguard drifted in orbit above a blue-green world below them. The planet Yarax spun quietly in the void-lush forests, calm oceans, glowing cities, no shields, no spaceports, no weapons. Captain Raina Malkin stood in the bridge. With narrowed eyes, kind of planet broadcasts open signals but doesn't even have defense satellites. Peaceful, said her science officer, Dr. Kaleem Iyer, or something else. Raina tapped the control console. Run the full scan. Again, I want eyes on every mountain, crater, and city square. Outside the observation window, the planet shimmered under twin suns. The orbital scans showed no missile silos, no plasma grids, not even a single turret. Just art, parks, music. Cities powered by solar towers, flying trams, giant libraries. Looks like a utopia, said Ensign Laura. They don't even lock their doors. Raina folded her arms. Nothing is ever that perfect. Then a new alert popped on the main screen. Alert, signal detected, source, deep underground language, human standard code. Dated 143 years ago, the bridge fell silent. That's impossible, Kaleem whispered. Humans have never been here, but there it was faint, broken, but clear. A repeating human distress signal. Buried under a planet full of aliens who claimed they had never known war. Raina leaned. Closer. Play the audio. Static. Then a male voice crackled through. This is Lieutenant Arlen Bishop, Exploration Corps. If anyone finds this, Yarax is not what it seems. I'm underground. They cut off, not natural. Don't let them static stop the light. They'll wake in silence. Raina looked around. We're going down. The drop shuttle touched down beside a shining white city called Lion Tor. The locals greeted them with soft music and flowers. Tall beings with clear eyes and thin silver robes. They spoke gently, moved slowly, and smiled often. We are the Yaraxians, said one who introduced herself as Vayan. There is no war here, no violence. We do not even have the word for weapon in our language. Dr. Kaleem frowned. Do you know what a distress signal is? Vayan tilted her head. A signal of sadness. Raina kept her tone polite. It came from underground. Deep below your city. Vayan shook her head. You have never been below? No caves? No reason to go down where the sun doesn't reach. They offered fruit and poems. They danced. They showed the humans their art museums. But something felt wrong at night. Raina walked through the streets. They were too quiet. No arguments, no crying, no guards, no mistakes. It was peace, but empty. Like everyone had been told how to smile, but didn't know why. Then a boy approached her. He carried a piece of paper, didn't speak, only handed it to her. Raina opened the drawing and froze. It was a war scene, explosions, fire, soldiers with human rifles, starships above burning cities, drawn in sharp black strokes, with words in Earth English, the burning sky. She knelt down. Where did you learn this? The boy looked up with blank eyes. I see it when I sleep. The next morning, Raina sent a deep scan drone below the city. It went down through layers of rock until it found a structure. Metal, human alloy, dated over a century ago. Buried, sealed. She sent her landing crew with drills. It took hours. But finally they cracked it open. Inside, a small chamber. Dark, dusty. A dead body in a human spacesuit. Mummified L.T. Arlen Bishop. Confirmed by badge and DNA. Next to him, a still blinking beacon transmitter. Battery almost dead. But one more log entry remained. Raina pressed. Play, I've been down here too long. I don't know how I'm still alive. They call themselves peaceful, but it's not peace. It's control. Something under this city changes how they think. They don't remember war because they aren't. Allowed to, I found a machine. It's not human, not Yaraxian. Older. I think it suppresses emotion, aggression, fear, maybe more. If that thing fails, they'll remember everything they forgot. Raina stood silent. They're not peaceful, Kaleem said quietly. They're sedated. Back in the city, things started. to change. First, a young Euraxian artist broke all her sculptures and ran screaming through the streets. She was captured, gently restrained. She said her dreams were filled with fire. Next, a gardener stabbed himself in the hand with a spade and stared at the blood like he didn't understand what it was. Then a teacher threw a book at a child. Everyone froze. She wept and apologized. But something had snapped. The machine underground IT was failing. Reyna, Kaleem, and 2 guards descended again, deeper into the ruins. Beyond the sealed room was a tunnel. At the end, a chamber, gigantic, full of glowing alien devices, floating. Metal orbs hovered over a pulsing white dome-man active machine humming low and steady. Kaleem scanned it. This is the source. It's been emitting low-frequency brainwave signals across the planet. Turning off aggression? Reyna asked. Kaleem nodded. Not just that. Turning off resistance, curiosity, maybe even history. A screen lit up. Beside them, an alien face appeared. Glowing eyes, featureless mouth, a recorded message. To those who awaken this device, beware. We, the Valderim, failed. We made peace by erasing the soul. It was not peace, it was silence. This machine must never fail, or the memories will return, and with them, the fire. Then the machine blinked red. It was failing faster now. Kaleem paled. Captain, what if we just started a war on a planet that forgot what war was? As the crew returned to the surface, they found the city in chaos. Smoke rose from a building. Euraxians fought in the street, punching, screaming. A crowd stood watching in horror. No one knew what to do. Rayna rushed in. Stop. You have to calm them, but Vayon, the calm diplomat, was different now. Her eyes twitched. Her hands shook. They won't stop, she whispered. I don't understand. The feelings. The fire in my chest. Reyna grabbed her by the shoulders. You're remembering things you were never supposed to, but you can choose what to do with them. Choose peace. Vayon pulled away. What is peace, if we never chose it? And then, far away, there was a sound no one had heard on Yarax for 10,000 years. An explosion, not from humans, but from someone who had just remembered how to make gunpowder. Back on the Vanguard, Reyna gave a report. We may have awakened something ancient. Not just a society, but a memory. We didn't fire a shot, but we started a war. Earth Command sent one message in reply. Secure all records, prepare for evacuation. And pray they forget again. Reyna looked at the screen showing Yarax. Below clouds forming over cities, colors shifting. The glow of a world beginning to boil. No, she whispered. They saw the birth of war. They won't forget this time. The smoke still hadn't cleared from the city of Liontor. Captain Reyna Malkin stood beside a shattered pillar in the center plaza, watching a fire burn through what used to be a music hall. It had been made of glass and lightwood, soft and glowing. Now it was cracked and blackened, and the worst part, it hadn't. It's burned by accident. Someone had started it on purpose. Nearby, Duraxians stood frozen in place, staring at the destruction with wide eyes. Some wept. Others just whispered the same question again and again. What have we done? The humans had been on Yarax for only 3 days, but the signal from LT Arlen Bishop's long-dead transmitter had changed everything. His voice, trapped for over a century underground, wasn't just calling for help. He had left a warning, and now the crew of the Vanguard knew why. Dr. Kalimayer sat in the underground ruin again, examining the alien control machine, the source of the Euraxians' unnatural peace. The ancient device was massive, half buried in rock and metal. It pulsed with flickering red lights. Once, it had flooded the planet with brain-calming waves. Now, it was glitching. Kaleem's voice trembled as he spoke into his recorder. The field is collapsing faster than we thought. Areas near the surface are already fully offline. Aggression, emotion, memory, it's all rushing back. He paused, then added quietly, we didn't break the peace. We just peeled back the cover. They were never peaceful. They were blocked. Up above, Reyna received a call from Ensign Laura aboard the Vanguard, still in orbit. Captain, I think you should see this, Laura said. A moment later, a holoscreen blinked on in front of her, showing a grainy video. A Euraxian stood in front of a camera, shaking, angry, and confused. His silver robe was torn. His mouth twitched as he struggled to find the words. We were lied to. Our thoughts were not our own. Whoever they were, trapped us in peace. We are awake now. We are angry. We remember now. The old dreams. The old fire. It burns. It burns through all of us. The transmission had already been shared across the entire planet. Someone had translated it into multiple Euraxian dialects in a matter of hours. It spread like a virus. By nightfall, the first factions had formed. Some Euraxians wanted to restore P7 P7 if it meant turning the machine back on. But many others wanted revenge. Not against the humans. Not yet. But against the old ones who had caged their minds. One group called themselves the Flameborn. They began gathering under a name that hadn't existed on Yarax. For 10,000 years, Warlord, Reyna walked the halls of the Vanguard again that night. The ship had just taken aboard injured civilians and frightened children. It wasn't a warship. It was a research vessel. It had no orders for what to do when peace shattered like glass. Cal met her in the medbay. I found something else, he said, holding up a cracked datapad from the ruins. LT Bishop left more than just his logs. He left a map, a layout of an older ruin, deeper, far older than the Euraxians. Called it the Vault of Reminders. Reminders of what? Reyna asked. Kaleem looked grim. Memories. Before the peace. Before the minefield? I think that's where he learned what the Euraxians used to be. Reyna clenched her jaw. We need to find that vault before someone else does. They flew in a quiet shuttle over the dark landscape. Below them, Yarax was no longer calm. Cities flickered like fireflies. Emergency lights, broken streets, marches, fires. In the distance, a glowing tower collapsed. Kaleem stared out the window. They're not just waking up, they're changing. Fast. War spreads faster than peace, Reyna said. They landed in an old forest. The vault was buried beneath a mountain, wrapped in mist and vines. It took 3 hours of digging and cutting through rubble before they found the entrance, an ancient door covered in alien symbols. Not human, not Euraxian. Inside, the walls were lined with holographic panels, still powered. Still waiting. When Reyna activated the central console, the vault came to life. Images flickered on the walls, Euraxians in old armor, holding curved weapons, riding metal beasts. Bombs falling. Cities burning. Screams. War, Cal whispered. So much for a gentle race. But the next image froze them in place. It showed the Euraxians fighting. Humans. Reyna stepped closer. That's not possible. The hologram showed a battle. Euraxian soldiers with glowing blades charging toward soldiers in Earth. Yeah, armor from centuries ago. Those aren't real humans, Kaleem said slowly. They're copies. Artificial simulations. The creators of the machine, maybe they used human memory files to train the Euraxians during their testing, or to fight their own proxy wars. Reyna realized the truth. They were prepared to fight. They just forgot. The machine made sure they never remembered, till now. Outside, something roared. Reyna and Kaleem ran up to the surface. A ship hovered over the forest, not human, not peaceful. It fired a warning shot near their shuttle. Symbols painted on the side. Flameborn. A new voice crackled through the coms. Step away from the vault. It belongs to the Children of Fire now. Reyna. Hit the thrusters? Too late, pal. She and Kaleem raced back into the shuttle as lasers hit the trees behind them. The ship lifted off just in time. Rocketing away from the forest, they watched from above as the Flameborn troops entered the vault below, back aboard the Vanguard. The situation got worse. Ensign Laura stood at the main screen.
Captain?
Multiple broadcasts are going out from different cities now. One says they've built a weapon. Another shows live footage of a Euraxian tank made from old mining machinery. Kaleem? stepped up beside her. They're building war tech by copying what they saw in the vault. And from what they've learned from us? Reyna stared at the screen. She knew what was coming. This wasn't about peace anymore. It was about power. Later that night, as Reyna recorded a log entry, she looked directly into the camera. They said they had no word for war. Now they have. 100, we didn't bring the fire. We uncovered it. The Flameborn grow stronger each hour. The vaults are being raided. The machine is failing. And I fear something worse than conflict. I fear that the next generation of Euraxians will be born in war. And when that happens, there may be no going back. She paused and whispered. The signal wasn't a call for help. It was a warning. And we didn't listen in time. The video was shaky and full of static. It showed a Euraxian standing in a broken marketplace, holding something long, metallic, and deadly in his hands. Smoke rose behind him. Fires danced across the skyline. He raised the weapon toward the camera. His voice was calm, but his words were terrifying. This is our world now. You gave us memories. You gave us fire. Now we will burn the past and shape something new from the ash. Then the video cut to black and was shared across every screen on the planet. Captain Reyna Malkin gritted her teeth. She'd watched the video 4 times, her knuckles turned white as she clutched the edge of the console. That's not just a speech, she said. It's a declaration. Dr. Kaleem nodded beside her. That's not just a Euraxian anymore. That's Warlord Rin. He had been a philosopher just days ago, one of the softest, gentlest minds on the planet. But now his voice was being heard across cities, across continents, like a siren song, and people were listening. Reyna stepped onto the command deck of the Vanguard. Now full of tension, the ship's orbit over Yarks revealed dark clouds gathering over several major cities. But these weren't weather clouds. These were smoke plumes rising from factories that had never been used before. Factories now pumping out weapons, crude tanks, makeshift artillery, plasma cut blades, drones built from scavenged human tech. They're copying us, Kaleem said. Fast. Faster than any species we've ever met. Reyna nodded. Because they're not learning. They're remembering. Down on the surface, the city of Furlanka fell. The peacekeepers tried to stop it, teachers, musicians, and scientists, begging their neighbors not to fight. But peace didn't stand a chance. Against memory, the Flameborn marched through the capital's streets holding banners soaked in firelight. They shouted songs that hadn't been sung in thousands of years, war chants. It's passed down through dreams and now fully awake. Reyna watched the feed from a surveillance drone. One of the Flameborn generals shouted into the wind, "We were told war is evil, but what is worse evil? Or being made into statues? We are alive again, and life means conflict." Later that night, Reyna made contact with Earth's command. A delay of 30 minutes each way, but the message was clear. Evacuation authorized. No weapons use. Record only. Do not interfere unless fired upon. Reyna read the screen, then sighed. They want us to watch. Kaleem stared out the window at the burning surface below. We caused this, no? Reyna said. We just opened a door. They chose to walk through it. But deep down, she wasn't so sure. In the shadows, something else was watching. Inside the ruined alien vaults, far deeper than anyone had, gone strange machines began to power on. Not Euraxian, not human, something older. A flicker of light ran through black stone. A pulse moved through ancient wires. Somewhere in the dark, a forgotten intelligence stirred. It had once kept the Euraxians in check. It had once silenced their rage. But now, it watched them with curiosity and interest. Meanwhile, Warlord Rin broadcast again. He now wore armor metal plates made from repurposed farming machines. On his shoulder was a symbol, a cracked sun surrounded by flames. His voice filled the airwaves. The humans showed us what we were. They gave us back our blood, and now they leave. No, I say, let them stay. Let them see what we become. Then he issued a challenge. One city stands against me. One last city still clings to silence. But silence will not save them. That city was Nero, the last true peaceful holdout. and Warlord Rin was marching toward it with 10,000 flame-born soldiers. Reyna stood in the Vanguard's war room. "Send a scout drone. I want full coverage of Rin's march. Audio, visuals, thermal." Kaleem looked shocked. "You're going to film a massacre?" "Going to record a civilization's fall," she said bitterly, "because history will need to know what happened here." As the drone flew, they saw it. Streets lined with cheering crowds, children learning to fight, drones flying overhead with repainted markings. At the front, Rin carrying a torch. They reached Nerul by dawn, and the first true battle in Euraxian history began. It was brutal. Rocks at first, then crude guns, then explosives. The defenders had no experience. They broke quickly. The Flameborn poured into the city. Buildings were turned to rubble, statues toppled, music halls destroyed. But it wasn't chaos. It was deliberate, Reyna realized. He's not just fighting. He's erasing the old world. When it ended, Warlord Rin stood on the broken tower of Nerul and raised a blood-red flag. The drone caught his final speech of the day. "We are not Euraxians anymore. We are Freikind, and this is only the beginning." Back aboard the Vanguard, tension spread through the crew. A message came from a civilian shuttle on the surface. "They're building factories, armories. They say war is sacred now. They celebrate it like a festival." Another report. "Some Flameborn are studying Earth history, learning how we fought wars. They admire us, copy us." Another report. "A group has turned the old ruins into a shrine to conflict. They pray to the idea of struggle now." Reyna felt sick. Kaleem whispered, "We didn't just start a war. We started a religion of war." Then the worst news arrived. 2 human drones had been captured. Rin's forces hacked into them, pulled Earth battle data, images, blueprints. They were learning faster than expected. One of Rin's engineers appeared in a leaked clip, holding a human rifle prototype. He smiled and said, "Soon, we'll build bigger ones." Later that night, Reyna sat alone in her quarters. She stared at the planet below. Fires bloomed like sickness across the land. She played Arlen Bishop's last audio log one more time. "If you find this, don't try to fix it. Don't think you can stop it. Just leave. Or they'll learn from you," Reyna whispered. "It's too late." Then she turned off the recording and watched as Nerul, once the city of peace, disappeared into smoke. The vault was silent. Dust floated through the air like dead stars. 3 Flameborn soldiers moved through the ruins with stolen lights, stepping over broken metal and cracked crystal. They had no maps, no guide. Just whispers, rumors from old. Dreams and enemy data stolen from the humans. They reached a sealed door. It pulsed once, then opened inside. It was a weapon, not human, not Euraxian, something older. Its surface shifted like water, but it was metal. Its edges glowed. It made no sound, but it hummed inside their bones. One soldier stepped forward, and the weapon opened its eye. Captain Reyna Malkin watched the live feed in horror. Pause. Zoom in. The drone image froze on the ancient weapon. It looked like a cannon crossed with a serpent. There were no buttons, no handles. It responded to thought. Dr. Kaleem Ayer's voice was calm but strained. "That's not just a gun. That's a sentient war device. A relic of the species who built the suppression field." Reyna didn't blink. "Can it be controlled?" Hesitated by the right kind of mind. "Maybe, but not without risk." Reyna stared at the screen as the Flameborn loaded the weapon onto a crawler tank. "They're not just arming themselves anymore," she said. "They're evolving into something new." The weapon was called Vorix 3 according to a fractured alien file. Reyna's team managed to decrypt. It was a living cannon, designed not to kill soldiers, but to erase armies from existence using a field of energy that disrupted matter at the molecular level, used once by the Valderim during their own civil wars. It had been sealed away when they realized it was too powerful, even for them. Now, the Flameborn had it, and worse. They figured out how to make it obey in the Flameborn capital. Warlord Rin stood before thousands. He wore the war armor of Neral's last. Defender's trophies now turned into symbols of victory. Beside him, the Vorax 3 floated in silence. He raised one hand. Our ancestors were turned into statues by the cowards who feared the truth of violence. But we are not stone, we are fire. And now, the fire burns brighter than ever before. The crowd chanted his name, and the Vorax 3 pulsed like it understood the warship, back aboard the Vanguard. Alarms rang. Laura shouted, "New data from the South Continent." One of Rin's generals used the new weapon. Reyna spun to the screen. Where? City of Dalinar. Population 50,000. Gone. Gone. Not destroyed, Captain. Erased. Nothing left but scorched ground and shadows. Kaleem checked the sensor feed. There's no radiation, no debris, just absence. Reyna's heart sank. So it works. Laura looked up. He points that. At us. Reyna finished her sentence. We disappear. Earth Command responded slowly. Observation priority. Do not engage. Evacuation options under review. Reyna stared at the message for a long time, then said quietly, "They're going to abandon Yarks." Kaleem looked sick. "We woke them up. We can't just leave." Reyna didn't answer. Not yet. Meanwhile, across Yarks, panic spread. The peace burn. Those still resisting the new war, culture tried to hide. Many fled into the jungles or sealed themselves in underground bunkers. Some begged the humans for help. One old Euraxian teacher, face bruised and voice trembling, recorded a message on a stolen transmitter. "Please, we don't know how to fight. We don't want to fight, but the fire's everywhere. It's in our minds, in our dreams. If you're listening, don't let them burn everything." Reyna played the message 3 times. Each time, her jaw tightened more. Then came the surprise. One Flameborn soldier deserted. She arrived at the Vanguard's surface outpost alone and carrying something. Wrapped in cloth, they brought her inside, scanned her for weapons, and gave her water. She spoke softly, her voice shaking with guilt. "My name is Arkson," she said. "I served under Rin. I saw what the weapon did to Dalinar. I believed in him once. I thought war would set us free, but now I see ... it's making us something worse." Reyna stepped forward. "Why come here?" Arkson slowly unwrapped the cloth. Inside, a control shard apiece of the Vorax 3's interface. Crystal, somehow stolen. "If you use this right," Arkson said, "you can shut the weapon down, but only from close. It's very close." Reyna stared at the shard. It pulsed. Faintly alive, Kaleem studied the shard and confirmed it. A true fragment of the war device's brain. "We can't shut it down remotely," he said, "but we might be able to jam it. Delay its reaction." "By time," Reyna nodded. "We'll use that time wisely." Laura looked uneasy. "You're planning something." "I'm planning not to vanish into a crater," Reyna replied. Warlord Rin, meanwhile, prepared his next move. He had chosen a new target. Veloska, the last United Science enclave on the planet, the birthplace of the field generator. And the only city still researching ways to stop the war. He pointed to the sky, where a human drone hovered. "Tell your Earth, I will show you the power of memory, and you will learn to fear what you gave us." As the Flameborn army moved toward Veloska, Reyna made her choice. "We're going down." Kaleem blinked. "Captain." Reyna stood tall. "We're not abandoning them. Not yet. We'll get into Veloska and use the shard to disrupt the weapon if it fires. At the very least, we give those people a chance." Kaleem stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "I'll prep the gear." The Vanguard's stealth dropship launched under cover of night. Its target, the Science Dome in Velostashka, below them. The city glowed with soft light. Scientists, engineers, and surviving Peaceborn gathered inside working. Hoping, Reyna and her team touched down and slipped inside the dome. They were welcomed with tired eyes and quick hugs. And then the sky changed color. Red. Rin had arrived. His army stood across the canyon. The Vorax 3 hovered beside him alive. "Alert hungry?" Reyna reached into her vest and clutched the shard. If they could get close enough, they could stop the weapon, or they would die trying. Inside the dome, one of the scientists gave her a nod. We've built a shielding pulse that may hide you for 30 seconds. After that, the weapon will lock on. Reyna smiled grimly. 30 seconds is enough. Then she turned to her team. Let's end this before it begins again. The sky over Viloska was blood-red dot across the canyon. Warlord Rin stood with his army, the Vorex 3 hovering beside him like a beast on a leash. The ancient war weapon glowed brighter nouts, core alive, humming, hungry, inside the science. Dome Captain Reyna Malkin gripped the stolen control shard. They had one shot. One small window to stop it. We go now, she whispered. She Kaleem, an Ark's informer. Flamborn, now turned against, Rin slipped into the shielded corridor, hearts pounding outside. Thousands waited for fire, but none of them knew. Something else was watching, not human, not Euraxian, something older. Something buried, and it had just awakened inside the alien vault beneath Veloska. Pressure changed. Sensors in the old walls began to glow. For thousands of years, the Valderim tech had slept quiet, stable, holding the minefield in place. But now, war had returned, and that war had broken the seal. A small pulse moved through the deep crust of the planet. It carried a signal, but never meant to be heard again. Kaleem felt it first. He stumbled mid-step and clutched his head. Reyna caught him. You okay? Something's wrong, he said, blinking rapidly. I just felt a voice, not speaking words, just pressure. Like a mine pressing on mine. Reyna's eyes narrowed. That's not the weapon? No, Kaleem said. This is deeper, ancient, alien. Arkson stepped forward, face pale. There were stories and flame-born campfires. Dreams we all had of black machines in the stars. Machines that taught peace by killing emotion. They said it was just old myth. Kaleem looked her in the eye. It's not a myth anymore. Above ground, the battle lines were drawn. Warlord Rin raised his hand. The Vorax 3 hovered higher, preparing to fire, but the moment the cannon charged, everything stopped. Lights flickered. Soldiers froze. A deep thrum rolled across the canyon like thunder. Rin stepped back. What is that? Then the ground cracked. Not from a bomb, not from machines. From something waking up. Inside the dome, alarms screamed. One scientist pointed. At the floor map, something is rising beneath the canyon. Reyna stared at the readings. It's not flameborn. No one spoke then. The earth exploded. Stone and soil blasted into the sky. A shape emerged from below. A machine the size of a mountain, covered in black armor, scarred and ancient. It rose on 6 legs and had no face, just a smooth silver crest that reflected the fire around it. And from deep inside, it came a sound like broken voices whispering. All at once, conflict detected, mimetic deterioration active, initiating planetary reset protocol. Reyna's blood turned cold. Oh no, Kaleem's voice trembled. It's a Valderim enforcer construct. It's designed to restore planetary peace by wiping out all active combatants. Like everyone. Arkson asked. Reyna nodded grimly. Yes, soldiers, leaders, even cities. Total reset. Machine doesn't see sides. It's only patterns. Down in the canyon, the flameborn scattered. Rin stared at the giant as its massive arms lowered. They weren't cannons, they were disintegrators. He roared, "Hold the line!"
Ow!
But his voice was drowned out by the first pulse. A wave of white. Light swept the canyon. Half of his front line vanished. No bodies, no blood. Just gone. Then the enforcer stepped forward, and the birth of war became a funeral march. Reyna, still inside the science dome, made a decision. We can't stop that thing from orbit, she said. But we can stop it from finishing its protocol if we use the shard on the Vorax 3, disrupt the war weapon, and maybe the enforcer will stand down. But we'll have to get close to both, Arkson warned. And it's chaos out there. Reyna nodded. Then we walk through chaos. Outside, Warlord Rin tried to use the VOR XX-3. He pointed it at the enforcer. "Burn it!" he shouted. "Obliterate it!" The VOR-X3 charged, then stopped. Its glow dimmed, its eyes shifted, then it turned to Wardrin. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Kala watched from the hill with horror. It's listening to the enforcer. Reyna realized the truth. These weapons were never designed to be enemies. They're part of the same system. The VOR-X3 just joined its older brother. Rin screamed in rage and charged toward the machine, but it didn't even fire. The enforcer simply stepped forward and erased him. The most powerful voice on Yarex vanished in a blink. Silence fell across both armies. The enforcer's voice returned. Emotional corruption beyond recovery. Initiate final cycle, Reyna. Looked at Kaleem. We need to move now. Using the shield pulse the scientists gave them, Reyna, Kaleem, and Arxon dashed across the battlefield. Dead zones of light hovered around them. The enforcer's disintegration field passed over trees, buildings, even flame-borne tanks, deleting them as if they never existed. Reyna reached the VOR-X3, still hovering quietly. She pulled the shard from her vest. It pulsed in her hand, hot, shaking. She reached forward, authorized, and for a second, everything stopped. The enforcer paused. Its lights flickered. Kaleem grabbed Reyna's shoulder. "You disrupted the protocol?" The enforcer tilted its head. "Duplicate core found. Command conflict detected. System paused. Temporary standoff." But temporary wasn't enough. They needed to end it for good. Reyna made the hardest decision yet. She inserted the shard directly into the VOR-XX-3. It screamed. A soundless screech echoed through the air. The weapon collapsed in on itself, folding like metal paper, turning black. The enforcer began to move then. Stopped. Its body twitched, and for the first time in its life, it shut down. It folded into the earth. The canyon fell silent. No fire. No battle cries. Just the whisper of wind. Hours later, survivors gathered in the dome, peaceborn. Scientists, even former Flameborn who had thrown down their weapons. Reyna stood before them. You all remembered war. You all tasted its fire. But now you know what comes next, Kaleem added quietly. The peace you make now will be real. Not forced, not artificial. It'll be yours. One young Euraxian girl stepped forward. Will the enforcer wake up again? Reyna looked down at the shard in her hand, now cracked and dim. Only if you forget what it cost you. It was supposed to be over. The giant enforcer, black and six-legged, part machine, part ghost, had shut down. Its last pulse had vanished into the earth. The battlefield was silent. For the first time in weeks, the people of Yarex were not killing each other, but peace doesn't come without questions. Deep beneath the battlefield, where the enforcer had folded itself into the stone, a final light flickered in its chest, and inside that dying glow was a message. Not for the Euraxians, not for the humans, but for someone else, someone it still expected to return. Dr. Kaleem Iyer stared at the scanner. His hands trembled. I don't believe this, he muttered. Captain Reyna Malkin looked up. What? There's a data burst coming from the enforcer. It's not radio, not light. It's using quantum entanglement. A tech we haven't seen since the old Valderim ruins on Kepler 1 to B. Reyna narrowed her eyes. So it's sending a message. Kaleem nodded. To someone or something. Off-world. Back at the impact site, teams from the Vanguard worked carefully, digging near the collapsed enforcer. The black metal was cool now, cracked in places, dead, until someone touched it. A soldier's glove brushed the surface and a section of the wall opened. Inside was a glowing chamber with long, spiraling crystals, memory spires. Reyna arrived within minutes. Kaleem examined the first spire. It's not a weapon. It's a recorder. A recorder of what? Kaleem's voice dropped. Of war. A complete archive of every time the Enforcer was used. Every planet, every species, every reset. Reyna stared at the glowing data logs. How many? Resets. Kaleem tapped the spire gently. Thousands. Later aboard the Vanguard, they began to decrypt the files. The AI system hesitated, then allowed access. The files were detailed, not just military records, maps of other worlds, names of extinct civilizations, footage of planets turned to ash, species erased, cities dissolved, cultures overwritten by artificial calm. One entry showed an aquatic world named Thalamir, where the locals had rediscovered war after 4,000 years of peace. The Enforcer landed at 20 minutes. Later, the ocean boiled. Another log showed a jungle planet, Marek 9, where two tribes began building weapons again. The Enforcer dropped from orbit. 90 seconds. Complete silence. Kaleem whispered, "We thought Yarex was the only one. But this has been happening for ages." Reyna clenched her jaw. Who gave them the right? Then they found something worse. A file marked unresolved pattern. It showed our Earth's date, 300 years ago. Why would the Valderim watch Earth? Reyna asked. Kaleem answered slowly, because we were already under observation. The file showed early human wars, conflicts, spikes in aggression. Then something strange. A Valderim Enforcer approached Earth's outer orbit, then turned away. They didn't attack us? Reyna said. No, Kaleem said. They watched. Then left. File notes say, species resistant to mimetic correction. Recommend exclusion. Reyna blinked. We were too wild to fix, or too dangerous to risk awakening. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The AI's voice spoke calmly. New. Signal detected. Location, deep space, 1.2 light-years. Source identified. Enforcer class unit designate V7. Status active. Reyna stood up fast. There's another one. Kaleem checked the data. Yes, another Enforcer. This one. Dormant. Reyna felt a chill. Did the Uraxian machine just call for help? Down on Urax, people were rebuilding. Peaceborn scientists began restoring the cities. Even former Flameborn started joining the new councils. They planted trees in battle-scarred ground, turned war factories into community shelters. Reyna stood in front of a group of children in Veliska. They listened to her talk about stars, not weapons. But all she could think about was that signal, echoing through the stars. Calling for another judge, that night Arkson came to the human base. She handed Reyna a cracked Flameborn journal. You need to see this. Inside were old poems, pre-machine, passed through dreams. Most were about fire, about rage. But one stood out. It read, they said we were broken, so they locked our minds. But peace without choice is not peace. It is sleep, and sleep always ends. Reyna looked at Arkson. Why show me this? Arkson whispered, because more will come. Machines, warlords, ideas, and we'll have to choose. Again, not just between war and peace, but between forgetting and remembering who we are. In the final decoded file, the Enforcer left a message, not data, but a statement, a warning. The pattern repeats. Sentient life tends toward conflict. Our purpose. To remove the memory, but when memory cannot be erased, total dissolution is required. Reyna closed the file. They think war is a disease, Kaleem added softly, and they're the cure. On the edge of the system, Deep Space Telescope captured movement, a speck of black against a dying star. V7 was coming. The signal had been sent, deep in space. Far beyond Yarax's dying moons, something heard it, something old, something built. For a single purpose. On a dark moon orbiting a forgotten red dwarf, the black metal shell of Enforcer Unit V7 began to move, its eye lit red, its limbs unfolded, its core spun with ancient purpose. Across light years, it had watched, and now it was coming. Not because of war, not because of fear, but because someone remembered too much. Back on Yarax, Captain Reyna Malkin stood on the edge of the recovered Enforcer's crater. Beneath her boots, black stone hummed faintly. The first machine was still dead. Silent, but the data it left behind had triggered something worse. She turned to Dr. Kaleem. V7's awake. He nodded grimly. Confirmed. Still in deep space, but accelerating. Fast and headed straight. Here, Reyna clenched her fists. We stopped one machine from wiping this planet. We might not get a second chance. Earth's command replied with cold logic. Understood. Risk of escalation noted. Yarex is not a Terran protectorate. Defensive action not authorized. Do not engage the second Enforcer. Evacuate if possible. Reyna stared at the screen. They're abandoning Yarex. Kaleem looked down. Again, the Peaceborn Council met in the old dome of Veliska. They had rebuilt schools, roads, hospitals. Children laughed again in the courtyards, but the shadow of V7 loomed large. One elder, a high speaker Renelle, stood before the group. We have not fought in 10 days, she said. We have burned no cities, but the machine comes anyway. Arxon, the former Flameborn warrior, replied quietly, because we still remember how to fight. Renelle asked, then what do we do? Reyna stepped forward. You decide. Run, hide, or stand. But if you stand, we stand with you. The Araxians made their choice. They would stay, not to fight, not to destroy, but to face what was coming. Not with weapons, but with memory. In orbit, the Vanguard prepared for the worst, Laura reported. V7 will enter the system in 19 hours. Reyna looked at Kaleem. Can we send a message? To the Enforcer? He asked. No, she said. To Earth, to everyone. Reyna sat before the broadcast terminal. She looked into the lens and spoke. This is Captain Reyna Malkin. Speak for no government, no army. It's only for the people of Yarex. They remembered war. It nearly destroyed them. But they chose peace, not because it was easy, but because they understood the cost. Now a machine comes to wipe them away, because they dared to remember. So I ask you, if you're out there, don't let this planet die for remembering. The message went live. Across colonies, stations, trade relays. People heard it, and some answered. On Mars, a free trade cruiser changed course. On Titan, a rogue AI offered to jam Enforcer signals for a price. In the belt, 3 mining barges. Sent supply drones to Yarex. And on Earth, a retired admiral placed one final call. Activate the Odysseus Protocol. The Enforcer V7 arrived 12 hours later. It dropped out of FTL like a black dagger. The planet below spun quietly, unaware. But V7 wasn't scanning for weapons. It was scanning for memory. In Veloska. The people gathered in the center of the city. They sang the old songs. They showed images of war and what came after. They built a shrine not to violence, but to survival. Kaleem's voice echoed through the citywide speakers. This is our memory, not yours to delete. We choose to live with it. But V7 did not speak. It began charging its main core. Reyna stood in the command deck, heart racing. We have minutes then. The unknown happened. A ripple in space, a white star blinked in orbit, and a Terran stealth battleship uncloaked. Its name TN. It opened comes with one sentence. You don't erase friends. Then it fired. The first shot didn't kill V7, but it staggered the machine, knocked it off course, delayed its charge. And in that moment, Arax had a chance. Inside the Peaceborn archives, Rana and Kaleem uploaded the final data spike into the sky. Not a weapon, not a virus, a story, all of Arax's war history. Every mistake, every loss, every fire dot sent directly into V7's core memory buffer. The Enforcer froze, confused, its code looped, conflicting input. It reported it saw war that ended in peace. It saw fire. It became gardens. It saw choice, something it could not process then. The Enforcer shut down. Its body fell into low orbit, crashing into the Dead Sea. No explosion, no fire, just stillness. Yarex survived. Not Because it fought, but because it chose not to forget. Because it refused to be corrected. And because humans at last stood beside them that night, the stars over Veloska were calm. Reyna stood with Arkson. Asen watching the dark shape in the sea glow faintly. Arkson asked, "Do you think another will come?" Reyna nodded slowly. Somewhere, Arkson stared at the horizon. Then we'll remember this moment, together. The sun rose slowly over the Dead Sea. There, half buried in black sand and salt water, lay the shattered body of Enforcer V7 silent, defeated and unresponsive. No more pulses, no more threats, just a husk. Staring at a sky it could no longer understand, Yarax had survived. Not because of strength, not because of superior firepower, but because its people chose to remember everything and erase nothing. Yet for Captain Reyna Malkin, the hardest question still remained. What do we do now that we've won? Reyna stood in the council chamber in Veloska. Around her sat leaders of both the Peaceborn and former Flameborn. Dr. Kaleem Iyer stood nearby, holding the final recovered memory shard from the fallen Enforcer. Reyna placed it on the table. "This is what's left," she said. Thousands of years of forced peace, a machine empire that erased minds, cultures, and entire species. Because it believed war was a sickness. The room stayed silent. Kala added, "And now we have the last Enforcer's logs. Every file, every decision, every reset, we could study them. Learn from them," or someone muttered. "We could. Destroy it all. Burn it before it corrupts us." Arkson, former Flameborn, shook her head. "We spent too many years burning what we didn't understand. We won't start again." Reyna looked around. "It's your world. Your choice. But know this, what you do next, the entire galaxy will remember." Back aboard the Vanguard, the crew packed up. Earth Command had finally responded. This time the message was different. RX crisis contained. No military engagement authorized. Moving forward, planet to be designated a protected neutral memory world under Galactic Accord. Observation only. Humanity is advised. Do not interfere again. Let peace evolve. Reyna laughed bitterly. "They tell us not to interfere, but they're only here because we did." Kaleem smirked. "They're afraid of memory too." Down below, the city of Veloska opened a new archive. Inside, they placed the shard from V7, the cracked helmet of Warlord Rin, the broken songs of the Peaceborn, human journals, drone footage, and Reyna's broadcast, and at the center, a new plaque. "This is what it cost. We remember, so we never start again." Arkson led a team of young Peaceborn into the old Flameborn factories. They didn't destroy the machines, they repurposed them. Weapons became irrigation pumps. Drones became weather satellites. Explosives were turned into mining tools. Yarax was healing not by erasing the past, but by transforming it. Kaler launched the Yarax Memory Network, an open archive that shared the planet's full history. With every colony in the galaxy, within weeks, views surged. Historians from the Datari Nebula called it a miracle. Veterans from the Delcan Uprising wept as they watched. The network didn't hide the pain. It showed it. And in doing so, it protected peace better than any machine ever had. But it wasn't just words. Something unexpected grew from Yarax. Other worlds began reaching out. Planets once kept under silence by old Valderim tech, species that once feared their own memories. Now, they started to speak again. About grief, about rage, about what it means to remember and choose peace anyway. One day, Renee stood before the Enforcer ruins, now turned into a museum. She ran her fingers along the metal. It was cold still, but no longer threatening. "You wanted to stop war," she whispered. "But war isn't the enemy. Forgetting is." Arkson joined her. "We keep expecting peace to come from outside," she said. "From laws, from machines, from humans." Reyna nodded. "But it has to come from inside. From us." Arkson smiled. Then let's build something no machine will ever understand. Years passed. Children were born who never saw war. The old Flameborn and Peaceborn taught together. The Enforcer site became a school, and in space, stars watched, but no new Enforcers came. Because somewhere deep in the ancient networks, something had changed. A final note appeared in the Valderim archive. Pattern variance detected. Species chose peace with memory. Reset aborted. Reyna left Urax one last time. She didn't go to Earth. She went to a place where another Enforcer had once destroyed a civilization, and she planted a beacon there, it said. Don't fear memory, let it guide you. If you survive, tell your story. If not, someone will find it. And remember,